I told my entitled sister I couldn't watch her kids, so she sent them alone in a cab anyway. They ended up at the wrong building crying on the street. The police called me, and her perfect life fell apart. The taxi driver got the address wrong. That's the detail everyone forgets when they're busy calling me heartless. My sister Victoria shoved her 2 kids into a cab with an incomplete address after I explicitly told her no, and somehow I'm the villain in this story. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Growing up, Victoria was the sun, and I was whatever orbits so far out you forget it exists. Our parents, Dorothy and Kenneth, made it crystal clear from the time we could understand words that Victoria mattered more. When she wanted my bedroom because it had better natural light for her art projects, I got the basement. When she needed money for college, my scholarship fund, the one my grandmother had set up specifically for me, mysteriously got redirected to Victoria's tuition at a private school. I was told family helps family. I was told to be grateful I had a family at all. I learned to swallow it. What choice did I have? I was 16 when Grand's money disappeared into Victoria's freshman year. I worked 2 jobs through community college while Victoria posted Instagram photos from her sorority formal. When she graduated and married Nathan, a real estate developer who treated her like royalty and bankrolled whatever she wanted, I was the maid of honor who paid for her own dress and smile through the rehearsal dinner where Dorothy gave a toast about how proud she was of her successful daughter. Singular. Victoria had 2 kids by the time she was 26. Olivia, who's 8 now, and Mason, who's 5. I love those kids more than I've loved most adults in my life. They didn't ask to be born into this mess. They didn't ask for a mother who sees them as accessories to her lifestyle instead of actual human beings who need things like attention and safety. The problem really ramped up about a year ago. Victoria decided she needed me time more frequently. Her definition of me time involved spa weekends that cost more than my monthly rent, shopping trips to Manhattan where she dropped $3,000 on a handbag, wine tastings in the Hamptons with her book club that didn't actually read books. And she expected me to provide free childcare with maybe an hour's notice, like I didn't have a full-time job as a financial analyst or a life of my own. I said yes too many times. That's on me. I enabled the pattern because I loved Olivia and Mason, and because some pathetic part of me still wanted Dorothy's approval. Every time I watched those kids, I thought maybe Mom would finally see me as valuable. Maybe she'd call and say thank you. She never did. Last month, Victoria called while I was in the middle of a presentation for a potential client. My phone buzzed against the conference table like an angry wasp. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. I finally excused myself, cheeks burning with embarrassment, and answered in the hallway. I need you to watch the kids this weekend, Victoria announced.
No, hello.
No, are you busy? Just a demand. I can't, I said. I have plans. Cancel them. Nathan booked us a surprise trip to Vermont. We leave tomorrow morning. My jaw clenched so hard I thought I'd crack a molar. Victoria, I'm asking you nicely to find someone else. I have a work commitment I scheduled months ago. I can't reschedule. You're so selfish. Her voice went sharp and cold. Family is supposed to help family. What's more important than your niece and nephew?
This isn't about them.
This is about you assuming I have no life outside of being your free babysitter. She hung up on me. I stood in that hallway for a full minute, staring at my phone before going back into the conference room. My boss asked if everything was okay. I lied and said yes. I thought that was the end of it. I really did. Saturday morning came in cool and bright. I had my professional development conference downtown, something I'd registered for back in January. The keynote speaker was someone I'd been following for years. The session started at 9, and I was sitting at my kitchen table at 7:30, drinking coffee and going through my notes, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Is this the residence of? The voice paused. Male. Official sounding. The person who lives at 847 Riverside Drive, apartment 12C? My stomach dropped like I'd stepped into an elevator shaft. Yes, this is she. Who's calling? This is Officer Garrett Mills with the NYPD. We have 2 minors here who were found alone outside an apartment building. They had a note with this address. The world tilted.
What? What are you talking about?
A taxi driver dropped off 2 children, approximately ages 8 and 5, at 847 Riverside Drive. But there's no apartment 12C in that building. The building only goes up to 8 floors. The kids were left on the sidewalk. A neighbor called us when she found them crying. I couldn't breathe.
Wait.
I live at 847 Riverside Drive, apartment 12C. But that's 847 West Riverside Drive. Is the address on the note missing the West? Let me check. Papers rustling. Yes, it just says 847 Riverside Drive. The driver took them to 847 East Riverside, which is a completely different building across town. My hand started shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. Oh my God. Are they okay? Are they hurt? They're frightened but physically unharmed. Can you verify their identities? They say their names are Olivia and Mason Brennan.
Yes.
Those are my niece and nephew. My voice cracked. Where are they now? At the 19th Precinct Station. We need a guardian to come pick them up immediately. I grabbed my keys and wallet. Didn't even change out of my pajama pants. Just shoved my feet into sneakers and ran for the door. The conference could go straight to hell. Those babies were alone and scared because Victoria's entitlement had finally crossed a line into something criminal. The precinct was chaos when I arrived 20 minutes later. I gave my name at the desk, and a female officer led me back to a small room with a bench and a table. Olivia and Mason were sitting together, holding hands. Olivia's face was streaked with tears. Mason was clutching a stuffed dinosaur like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to Earth. Aunt Gwen. Olivia launched herself at me. I caught her and felt her entire body shaking with sobs. You're safe now, I whispered, pulling Mason into the hug too. I've got you. Nobody's going to hurt you. Officer Mills appeared with a clipboard. He was maybe 40, with tired eyes that had seen too much. We need to document this incident. Can you explain your relationship to these children? I'm their maternal aunt. Their mother is my sister. And where is their mother? I have no idea. The words tasted like battery acid. She asked me to babysit this weekend. I told her no because I had work obligations. I had no knowledge she planned to send them anywhere. His expression hardened. So, she sent 2 minors alone in a taxi without confirming someone would be there to receive them. Apparently, that's child endangerment. We'll need to file a report. My phone buzzed.
Victoria.
I declined the call. It rang again immediately. You should probably answer that, Officer Mills suggested. I picked up. What the hell did you do? Finally, Victoria's voice was shrill with panic. Where are my kids? The taxi driver said he dropped them off hours ago. They're at a police station because the driver took them to an address that doesn't exist. Silence. Then, what are you talking about? I sent them to your apartment. I live at 847 West Riverside Drive, apartment 12C. You wrote down 847 Riverside Drive with no east or west designation. The driver took them to a completely different building on the other side of town, one that doesn't even have a 12C. Did you even verify the address before you shoved your children into a taxi alone? Don't you dare lecture me. Officer Mills held out his hand for my phone. I gave it to him. Mrs. Brennan, this is Officer Garrett Mills with the NYPD. Your children were found abandoned on the sidewalk in Manhattan. We're filing a child endangerment report. You need to return to the city immediately. I couldn't hear Victoria's response, but the officer's expression suggested it wasn't cooperative. That's not optional, ma'am. If you fail to return within 24 hours, we'll be forwarding this case to Child Protective Services. He ended the call and handed back my phone. The next several hours were a blur of statements and paperwork. I called Nathan directly. He was horrified when he learned what Victoria had done. She told me you'd agreed to watch them, he said, voice tight with fury. She said she'd arranged everything properly. I never would have gone along with this if I'd known. We're coming back right now. Dorothy called next. How could you do this to your sister? I didn't do anything to Victoria, I said flatly. Victoria put 2 children in a taxi to a wrong address and left them on a street corner alone in New York City. You refused to help. What was she supposed to do? Find a responsible babysitter. Hire a service. Cancel her trip. Literally anything except endanger her own children. You've always been jealous of Victoria. I hung up. I didn't have the energy for Dorothy's delusions. The CPS investigation launched within 48 hours. A caseworker named Teresa Montgomery contacted me for a statement. I provided everything. The phone records showing Victoria's demands and my refusal. The police report. Witness statements from the neighbors who'd found the kids. The taxi company's records showing the driver had been given an incomplete address. Nathan filed for divorce 3 weeks later. He'd hired a family law attorney and was seeking primary custody based on Victoria's demonstrated negligence. The police report became Exhibit A in his filing. Victoria called me screaming. You destroyed my marriage. You turned everyone against me. Those children could have been kidnapped, trafficked, or killed, I said. There is no forgiving that level of recklessness. Kenneth called that night. Your mother is very upset. Victoria endangered her own children because I wouldn't drop everything for her convenience. I have nothing to apologize for. She made a mistake. She made a choice. Mistakes are accidents. This was deliberate disregard for her children's safety. The custody battle stretched over 4 months. Nathan's attorney was ruthless. She documented every instance of Victoria's neglectful behavior. The time she'd left Mason in a hot car to run into a store. The afternoon she forgot to pick up Olivia from school because she was at a hair appointment. The incident where she let the kids play unsupervised near a busy street while she took selfies. Dorothy launched a full-scale campaign against me, calling every relative we had. According to her version, I was a bitter, childless woman who'd weaponized one mistake to steal my sister's children out of jealousy. Our Aunt Patricia called. Your mother is beside herself. Her grandchildren were left alone on a Manhattan street corner. I replied. Maybe her priorities are misplaced. Victoria says you refused to help out of spite. Victoria asked me to babysit with an hour's notice. I had work commitments. I said no, which is my right. She then committed a crime. Family helps family, Gwen. Family doesn't endanger children. Patricia hung up on me. Over the following weeks, I received countless messages from cousins and people I barely remembered meeting. All of them had been fed Victoria's version. I stopped defending myself. The people who mattered knew the truth. The preliminary custody hearing happened on a gray October morning. Nathan's attorney, Diane Foster, had prepared me for what to expect. Victoria's team will try to discredit you, she said. Stay calm. Stick to facts. The courthouse was all marble floors and echoing hallways. Victoria arrived with her attorney, but wouldn't look at me. Nathan squeezed my shoulder. Thank you for doing this. Those are my niece and nephew, I said. I'd walk through fire for them. When Diane called me to testify, I walked through it methodically. The conference I'd registered for months prior. Victoria's last-minute demand. My clear refusal. The phone call from Officer Mills. Finding Olivia and Mason terrified at the police station. Did Mrs. Brennan confirm your address before sending the children? Diane asked.
No.
If she had, she would have realized the address doesn't exist as she wrote it down. Victoria's attorney tried several angles during cross-examination, all attempting to frame me as unreasonable. But the police report was damning. Officer Mills's testimony about finding 2 small children abandoned on a sidewalk was worse. Judge Morrison ordered a full custody evaluation. These are serious allegations. I want a comprehensive assessment before making any determinations. The evaluation took 6 weeks. Both parents underwent psychological assessments and home visits. The kids were interviewed by a child psychologist. Olivia told me later what the psychologist had asked. She wanted to know if we felt safe with Mom. I told her about the time Mom left Mason in the car, and he couldn't get out because the child locks were on. The evaluator's report was devastating for Victoria. It documented a pattern of neglectful behavior and minimal awareness of age-appropriate supervision requirements. The taxi incident was labeled as demonstrating severe lapse in judgment. The final custody hearing came months later. Victoria took the stand first, crying at appropriate moments, insisting the taxi incident had been a one-time mistake. When I testified again, I focused on specific incidents I'd witnessed firsthand. The time Victoria showed up 2 hours late to pick up the kids because she decided to get a massage. The afternoon she'd bailed on taking them to the zoo because her friend invited her to brunch. Do you believe your sister is incapable of caring for her children? Victoria's attorney asked. I believe she's capable but unwilling to prioritize them over her own desires, I said. That makes her dangerous to their well-being. Judge Morrison's ruling came 3 weeks later. Nathan got primary physical custody. Victoria received supervised visitation pending completion of parenting courses and psychological counseling. Victoria blamed me for all of it. Dorothy stopped speaking to me entirely. Kenneth would occasionally send brief texts asking how I was doing, but the family had fractured beyond repair. The aftermath created shockwaves I hadn't anticipated. Victoria's social circle turned on her almost immediately. Other mothers at the kids' school had heard about the court case. Suddenly, the woman who'd been hosting elaborate birthday parties was being excluded from playdate groups. Nathan invited me to dinner that first week after getting primary custody. They're adjusting better than I expected, he said. They know they're safe now. Victoria's attorney is already filing motions to modify the visitation order. Already? She hasn't even started the mandated counseling yet. He ran a hand through his hair. I need to ask you something. Would you be willing to be listed as an emergency guardian? If something happens to me, I want to make sure the kids don't default back to Victoria. The weight of what he was asking settled over me. You're sure? You're the only person I trust completely with them. You've already proven you'll put their safety above everything else. Then yes. Absolutely yes. Dorothy found out somehow and left me a voicemail dripping with venom. You're trying to steal those children permanently. What kind of monster turns against her own blood like this? I deleted the message without responding. Work became my refuge. My supervisor, Angela Martinez, noticed my distraction during meetings and called me into her office. Everything okay? She asked. I gave her the abbreviated version. Her expression shifted from concern to outrage. She put kids in a cab to a wrong address? And now you're the villain. Apparently. That's insane. Take whatever time you need for court dates. We'll work around it. The supervised visitation started 2 months after the ruling. Nathan hired a professional monitor named Graham, a retired social worker who'd seen everything. Olivia told me about the first visit. Mom cried a lot. She kept saying the mean judge didn't understand. Mr. Graham told her she needed to focus on activities with us instead of talking about the court case. The pattern continued. Victoria would show up for her supervised hours, but spend most of the time either complaining or being too distracted to genuinely engage. Graham's reports reflected this. This isn't getting better, Nathan said, sharing the reports with me. If anything, she's getting worse. The parenting classes Victoria was required to complete were held twice weekly. Nathan received copies of the attendance records. She missed 4 sessions in the first month, always with excuses. The coordinator warned her that excessive absences would result in failure. Her psychological evaluation was even more concerning. The therapist's report described her as having narcissistic tendencies with poor insight into her own behavior and limited capacity for empathy, particularly regarding her children's emotional needs. Victoria called me after receiving that report. Are you happy now? They're calling me a narcissist who can't love her own children. They're calling you someone who needs help. There's a difference. This is all your fault. If you'd just watched them that weekend, none of this would have happened. If you'd accepted my no like an adult, none of this would have happened. If you'd verified an address before sending children alone across the city, none of this would have happened. I hate you. I can live with that. She hung up. The months dragged on. Victoria completed her parenting classes with minimal passing scores. She attended therapy, but showed limited engagement. Her supervised visitations remained inconsistent in quality. I started taking the kids 1 weekend per month to give Nathan a break. We'd go to museums, catch movies, or just hang out in my apartment. Those weekends became highlights for all of us. During one visit, Mason asked me a question that broke my heart. Aunt Gwen, why does a mom like us as much as she likes her friends? Oh, buddy, she loves you very much. Then, why does she always look at her phone instead of playing with us? And why did she put us in that taxi alone? I was really scared. I pulled him into a hug. Some adults have a hard time showing love in the right ways. That's not your fault. It's about stuff she needs to work on. Are you going to send us away too? Never. I will always be here for you and your sister. That's a promise. Olivia, who'd been pretending not to listen, came over and joined the hug. We know, Aunt Gwen. You're the only grown-up who doesn't break promises. One Friday evening, about 4 months after the custody ruling, Nathan brought the kids to my apartment for dinner. Real apartment. Right address. 847 West Riverside Drive, apartment 12C. The one Victoria had never bothered to write down completely. Aunt Gwen, we made you something at school, Olivia said, presenting a construction paper card covered in crayon hearts. Mason hugged my legs. We missed you. Nathan pulled me aside while the kids settled in to watch a movie. Thank you for everything you did. I know it cost you your relationship with your parents. Those kids deserved someone to protect them. That's all that mattered. The modified custody arrangement went into effect 8 months after the original ruling. Victoria was allowed unsupervised visits every other weekend, starting with just daytime hours. The court kept Graham available for spot checks. I ran into Victoria at Dorothy's birthday party, the first family gathering I'd attended since the incident. When she saw me, her face contorted with rage. You destroyed my life. You endangered your children. I just made sure there were consequences. They're my kids. You had no right. They're human beings who deserve not to be abandoned on a street corner because you couldn't be bothered to verify an address. Dorothy appeared, champagne in hand. Can we please not do this today? Your golden child nearly got her kids kidnapped because she's too selfish to be a responsible parent, I said evenly. But sure, let's pretend everything's fine. Victoria lunged at me. Nathan caught her arm. Don't give them more ammunition against you. I hate you, she spat at me. I hope you're happy now. I'm happy those kids are safe. Everything else is just noise. The party ended early. Kenneth walked me to my car. Your mother wants you to apologize. For what exactly? For testifying against Victoria. For causing problems in the family. I testified truthfully about what happened. If that caused problems, Victoria created them, not me. She's still your sister. And those are still children who could have died because she was too entitled to accept the word no. I open my car door. I love Olivia and Mason more than I need Dorothy's approval. That's not changing. The supervised visitation period lasted a year. Eventually, the court granted Victoria unsupervised visits, 2 weekends per month. I held my breath every time the kids went to her house. Nathan installed tracking apps on their phones and made them promise to call immediately if anything felt wrong. Nothing catastrophic happened, but the small incidents continued. Victoria would forget Mason's allergy medication. She'd schedule activities during Olivia's homework time. She'd promise trips and then spend the day shopping instead. Nathan documented everything. I saw the kids regularly. Nathan had me listed as an emergency contact. Olivia started calling me for advice about friend drama. Mason would randomly FaceTime me to show me his latest Lego creation. They were thriving despite everything. Victoria's animosity toward me never faded. Family gatherings became battlegrounds with her making pointed comments about how I'd stolen her children's love. I stopped responding. Her narrative required my participation, and I refused to give it. Dorothy's health declined over the next year. Lung cancer, aggressive and unforgiving. She refused to speak to me even as Kenneth urged her to make peace. She wants Victoria there, Kenneth told me. And I'm sure Victoria is providing wonderful support. Please don't be like this. She's dying. I'm not stopping anyone from doing anything. But I'm also not pretending the past didn't happen for the sake of a deathbed reconciliation Dorothy doesn't even want. Dorothy passed on a Tuesday morning. Victoria called me shrieking that I'd killed our mother with stress and cruelty. Kenneth just sounded tired when he asked me to please come to the funeral. I went. I sat in the back. I didn't speak to Victoria. I paid my respects to Kenneth and left. Nathan texted me later. The kids wanted me to tell you they're proud of you for going. They know it was hard. That message meant more than anything Dorothy could have said. Life moved forward. Nathan's divorce was finalized about 18 months after the initial custody ruling. Victoria fought for spousal support and got a minimal amount. 2 years after that, she remarried a surgeon named Philip. She had another baby, a daughter named Claire. I got promoted at work. Started dating someone who actually respected my time and boundaries. Built a life that wasn't centered around managing Victoria's chaos. Olivia graduated middle school last spring. She gave a speech as class president about resilience and the importance of people who stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. She looked directly at me when she said it. After the ceremony, she hugged me tight. Thank you for not letting anything bad happen to us. Always, sweetheart. No matter what. Victoria was there with Philip and Claire, maintaining her distance. She looked like she wanted to say something but thought better of it. Good. We had nothing left to discuss. Mason started middle school this fall. He joined the chess club and debate team. Nathan jokes that he's going to be a lawyer someday. The kid has a sense of justice that won't quit. I took them both out for ice cream last weekend. Just us. Olivia told me about a boy she likes. Mason showed me a paper he'd written about personal heroes. He'd chosen Nathan for getting primary custody and me for calling the police that Saturday morning. That's quite an honor, I said, throat tight. You saved us, he said simply. That makes you a hero. Your dad did the hard part. You did the scary part. Dad says telling the truth, when family doesn't want you to, is the hardest thing anyone can do. Victoria sent me a message last week. The first direct contact in almost 3 years. The kids' therapist says they need me to be more present. This is your fault. They never would have needed therapy if you hadn't interfered. I blocked her number. Some people will never accept responsibility for their own actions. That's their prison to live in, not mine. Kenneth calls occasionally. He admits now that he should have stood up to Dorothy more. Should have protected me better when we were young. Victoria asks about you sometimes. He mentioned during our last conversation. What does she ask? If you're happy. If you ever think about reconciling. I am happy. And no, I don't think about reconciling. You can tell her I said so. She made mistakes. She made choices. There's a difference. Sometimes I think about that Saturday morning when Officer Mills called. How my entire life pivoted on Victoria's assumption that I'd comply even after saying no. How she valued her vacation more than taking 2 extra minutes to write down a complete address. How close we came to tragedy because one person refused to hear boundaries. I don't regret any of it. The family fracture. The lost relationships. Dorothy's resentment. Victoria's hatred. All of it was worth it because Olivia and Mason are safe. They grew up knowing someone would protect them even when it cost that person everything. That's what love actually looks like. Not the conditional, transactional affection Dorothy offered or the entitled demands Victoria made. Real love that shows up when it's hard and stays even when everyone else walks away. Olivia wants me to help her shop for high school next summer. Mason asked if I'd teach him to drive when he turns 16. Nathan invited me to Thanksgiving with his parents, who treat me like extended family. I built something better than what I lost. A chosen family that respects boundaries and values safety. A life where I'm not constantly bracing for the next crisis. Victoria can hate me forever. It changes nothing. I'll still be here when those kids need me, keeping them safe from whatever comes next, including their own mother's dysfunction if necessary. That's a promise I made in a police station all those years ago. And it's one I'll keep until the day I die.
Thanks for listening. I'll be back tomorrow.